Good evening. Today I would like to review about Hanulind, also known as Jabal. But mainly, rather than about Hanulind, it is most about the book he wrote called Odyssey. I'm very sure that you all will know who is Hanulind. So especially I just want to criticize about the book, what he wrote. In that book, what he mainly wrote about was how he arduously fled from Myanmar and how he was involved in Myanmar politics. I find that he wrote about himself as if he were a great hero. Therefore, I want to point out to the world whether the content of this book are things he truly experienced and endured, or if they were written from imagination. Or I mean, this book is a fiction or real story. So I want to criticize about that book. Firstly, what I want to point out is how artists and singers and some filmsters from Myanmar becomes involved in Myanmar politics. That is very important. You all need to know how is the Myanmar, I just want to say most of the artists, author, filmsters, and how they involved in Myanmar politics. That is the first thing you all need to know. Most of the artists and singers and authors and filmstars from Myanmar are the part of the elite class who live like a wild on top of the water. What I mean is that most of them have never cared about the normal life of the Myanmar people. I mean not the normal like grassroots people of the Myanmar. Only what they care about is only their own interest. I mean, most of the thing they are doing is for their own popularity and own interest. That is what I mean. And Hanulind is include Hanulind or Jabal. I'm very sure that you all know who is Hanulind and who is Jabal is one of them. So why I want to try to criticize about that book is because of the last one or I think 2 months ago, the Hanulind make one interview with the France 24, and he said to the interviewer something like he himself like a hero, and what he have done is to like a very he tried very he make very adventures to flee from the Myanmar. But that is really or not, we just want to criticize today. And after finishing and about I just let me continue about the Hanulind. He's one of the he's the main career is the artist and is the dentist, And after finishing his school, Hanulind got the opportunities to attend the University of Dentistry. He's a very the bright and very outstanding at the high school, and he passed the high school. And the 1 or 2 distinctions, and then he get the opportunity to attend the dentistry. In a country like Myanmar, which needs doctors, including dentists, he had the chance to become a dental surgeon, but he didn't try. In Myanmar, it's not only him. Now the future thing, she is now living in Netherlands, although she is one of them. She attended the medical school, but she never worked. She never strive her life as a doctor, and she struggled her life as a singer. It is very bad, because the country like Myanmar, which need a doctor and including dentist, but Hanulind had the chance to become a dental surgeon. However, Hanulind did not make a living as a dentist. Instead, he chose to become a musician. Why? A profession that easily brings in money and famous in Myanmar. The popularity in Myanmar, But yes, we can say that his father is a very famous musician, and maybe he'll follow his father's career, but really is not. Because even if he don't want to be a dentist? Why he chose the dentist school? If he want to be an artist or singer, he can choose the artist university of artists. That is the thing I want to say, What this shows is that Hanulind would do anything for fame in his life. The next point is how he became involved in politics. That is the thing I also want to point out. So how he becomes involved in politics. They have their respective intention. I mean, like a future thing, now she's living in the Netherlands and Hanulind. They have their respective, interest, to involve in politics. So, as I mentioned above, artists, singers, writers, film stars, and the authors, and Myanmar and actors in Myanmar are the people who will do anything to become famous and earn money. Around 2010, one election was held in Myanmar. I'm very sure that you all will know. After the election, a government emerged, led by the President Thein Sein. And that new government released political prisoners. I'm very sure that you all know about that. At the time, the government released most of the famous political prisoners, Among the released political prisoners was his favorite, maybe the favorite of the Hanulind, maybe Hanulind even don't know who is the Aung San Suu Kyi at the time, Was his favorite opposition leaders, Aung San Suu Kyi. Initially, no one dared to approach Aung San Suu Kyi. Yes, at the initial time, no one mean, especially the singer, musicians, film star, authors, they don't dare to approach Aung San Suu Kyi. However, after the 2012 election, candidates from the National League for Democracy Party led by Aung San Suu Kyi were elected at the 2012 by-election. That also you have been note about that. Following Aung San Suu Kyi victory in the by-election, she became even more popular among the people of Myanmar. That is also you all have been note, so I just don't want to point it out much. With this increase in popularity, Hanulind, along with other singers and other musicians, film stars, authors, and the writers, also came closer to the Aung San Suu Kyi. As I told you, that Hanulind is one of them. At this point, there's something that need to be understood. If you think those who approached Aung San Suu Kyi did so because they support her or wanted to strive for democracy in Myanmar, you will be mistaken. I'm very sure. What I mean is that those who approached Aung San Suu Kyi had different intentions. They have their own intention. I mean, most of the artists, singers, musicians, authors, film stars, they approach to the Aung San Suu Kyi. They have their own intention and they have their own interest. The main intention among them was the most of these people wanted their children to study or work in developed countries like United States of America or Europe. That is their main intention. Because of most of the singer, most of the musician, most of the film star, and most of the author, and most of the elite person of the Myanmar, they want their children to study abroad, especially in United States or the Europe, because at that time most of the European country and the United States they just make sanctions. They just make sanctions, and it got too much to study up there in Europe or the United States. That's why I would continue saying why is that, I was going to say. The shortest way to achieve that was to become close to Aung San Suu Kyi. The shortest way to study their children in the United States of America and Europe is to approach more and more closer to the Aung San Suu Kyi. Why? Because at the time, Aung San Suu Kyi's reputation was extremely famous, not only within Myanmar, but also globally. She was very famous at the time, Therefore, some of the elite class, as I told you, artists, film star, musician, author from Myanmar push as close as possible to Aung San Suu Kyi to gain closeness with her. Their intention is to send their children to abroad and to work abroad. They came very closer to the Aung San Suu Kyi. Yes, Hanulind is one of them. Fortunately, not unfortunately, fortunately, luckily for them, in the 2020 elections led by the National League for Democracy Party government, problem arose regarding voter fraud. To resolve this issue, opposition parties requested the election commission found by the National League for Democracy government to address them. But the election commission did not solve that problem. Therefore, the opposition party approached to the Commander-in-Chief of Defense Service and requested intervention to solve the election fraud issue. At the time, the Commander-in-Chief reviewed the issue and advised, urging the ruling parties to solve the political problem politically through negotiation with the opposition party. The Commander-in-Chief was at the time also is the senior general mayor line, request the ruling party and the ruling government to solve the political problem politically. However, when the ruling party dismissed the voter fraud issue and tried to form a government, the military intervention and temporarily took state power. That you all have been known. I just don't want to stretch out about that. This situation became an excellent opportunity for those of the persons, singer, the musician, filmster, author from Myanmar who were aiming to go to developed country. Why? I will continue. Immediately after the military took power, members of the National League for Democracy Party led protest against the takeover, against the interim government. As everyone knows, the military took power according to the 2008 constitution, and as long as the protest crowd did not break the law, there was no response from outside the legal framework. However, when some leaders within the protest crowd encouraged the protesters to commit violent acts, security force managed the riot according to the rule of engagement. When this management occurs, so-called, as I told you, the actors, filmsters, musicians, and the singers, they pointed fingers and claiming the military was violently oppressing the people and rushed ahead of each other to Thai Myanmar border to seek political asylum in that country. And this person called Hanulind was also one of them. That is the first introduction about the Hanulind and other artists. So the next one, and the coming one, is I want to criticize about his book. I'm very sure that you will know what kind of people Hanulind was, So, in his book, he writes that like he is a hero, and his adventurous journey from the Myanmar to the Thailand. He writes something like that in his book. What he writes is in some part of his book. He write. I will read what he writes in this book. I arrived at meeting point near the bridge. 2 motorcycles were already waiting for me. That means he is going to flat to the Thailand by the motorcycle. There were super compact little things. One would ride ahead as a scout. On the other, I would ride as a passenger. Mad one means Madam One. They have their secret name. Maybe there may be 3 Madam. Madam 1, Madam 2, Madam 3. That is the secret name of that ladies. Madam 1 had taken my luggage and gone ahead by car. Only me and 2 motor taxi guides remained. Brother, if you are ready, let's go before the sun gets high, one said. Wear a mask, brother, he added. I took out the mask I had ready in my pocket and put it on. It was red. The motor taxi guides panicked. Hey, brother, red won't do. Here, take my spare mask and put it on. Because what he wanted to say is that the red color is the very distant for the security personnel. If somebody saw the red, this red is no longer that, they were checking, something like that. So you want to say that. But we couldn't even choose the color of the mask we wore for health reasons anymore, because it was the symbol of the winning party. That became allergic to the color red like Spanish bull. that is just his imagination, imagination, because he need to write that of the he need to write to the army like a villain, and they are the actors, and he himself is like actors. He need to write something like that, and he write continuously that it was good to leave this abstractly meaningless city quickly. I started the motorcycle seat from the Tanlin circular road. We turned into a smaller branching path and ended up on a paved road leading into the jungle. After passing through 2 or 3 small villages, there was no longer any real road. We started seeing small hills and fields. The 2 young motor taxi guides seemed very familiar with the route. Where there was a path, they would ride into small village, then back into the jungle. In this way, they had been avoiding checkpoint. After riding continuously for about 3 hours, we reached a place where the motorcycle started making a clinking sound. The motor taxi guide stopped the bike for a moment to check it. Then he shook his head and said, "Brothers, we need to stop briefly at the village ahead. I think the timing change has a problem." Not knowing where we were, I ended up with the 2 motor taxi guide going around the same unknown village looking for a motorcycle repair person. By the time we found a mechanic, I was pretty hungry, unable to find any food shops. In the end, at a tiny little beetle shop, I bought a whole bunch of bananas they had for sale. While the bike was being fixed, the 2 motor taxi guides and I had a middle banana feast. After the bike was fixed, my face smashed with grease. How he writing is, something like he thinking and writing. Why I'm saying like this, because of this all is only his imagination, not a real story. I will show you. I will prove you why I say that. I will prove you. I would have to play it if I need to pose as a motorcycle machine, so it went alternating between village path and jungle trade, and by mid-afternoon we arrived near the Taton checkpoint. And at the mid-noon, they arrived near the Taton checkpoint. From the Tanlin is at the other side of the Yangon downtown. Tanlin it's very near to the Yangon downtown. It's very near to the Takita townships. So from the Tanlin, he go to the Taton within 8 hours by the motorbike. It also is very amazing, And what he couldn't use here, I will show you. We right near the Taton checkpoint, looking at the visible pack of military. They said that military dogs, it is very rude. What is the usage, This is the military soldier and the military personnel. He need to say something like that. They said all the military personnel like a dog. That is the very rude usage. And with the again held height, my head pounded quite a bit. Although they said the chance of motorcycle being checked was low, if they did check, the situation would be good. If they said, "You take off your mask, my life will be over." Well, good luck, brother. The motor taxi guy said, and slowly rode the motorcycle toward the checkpoint. I just had to still myself and think. Why I'm reading all of this, why? Because I have something to point it out within this part, from this paragraph. That's why I'm reading all detailedly, And what he said is, he closer to a army checkpoint, that is the township, and as much as he closer to the checkpoint, his heart is beating, and when they are crossing the checkpoint, the soldier said to take off his mask, and he take off, and the closer we got to the post, the louder the tumbling in my chest becomes. As we slowly move among the queue of motorcycle, suddenly a soldier stepped out onto the road. After directing other motorcycles where to go, with an air of deep suspicion, he stopped our bike. My whole life flashed before my eyes. It was over. The story was finished. So long, my good life. So long, freedom. The soldier walked until he was about 2 yards from us, and only when he saw us up close, our hair caked with dust, our face smashed with grease, did he seem to realize we weren't who they were looking for. He frowned, wrinkled his nose, and then, with a wave of his hat, shoot, shoot us on and go. That is the point I want to review. Because at the time, if somebody want to cross the checkpoint, especially to the army checkpoint, if you are riding motorcycle or bicycle, you need to get off from that your bike or your bicycle. You need to get off and you need to carry by hand your bike or your bicycle. You are not allowed passing the checkpoint by the riding of your motorbike or your bicycle. That is the point I want to review. I want to show you. I want to blame about, because that's why what I am saying is that the author of this book, the name called Odyssey, is lying to the international community that of he is a hero. He makes there so much adventures to get to the Europe. That is the point I want to tell you all, because I would continue reading like chapter by chapter and chapter, and then I would stretch out what is the right thing and what is the wrong thing, because this is absolutely the bullshit thing. This is absolutely lying to the international community. What I want to say is that this Jabout or the Hanulinds not really experience that kind of adventure. Maybe he fly out to the Thailand by the flight, because in this country it is very easy to make the fake passport at the time. Otherwise he will go there by bus, because at the time you can go to the Thailand-Myanmar border by the minibus very easily. But I'm very not sure why he tried to lie to the international community. Or maybe I'm very sure that, as I told you before, they want to get the asylum at that country. That's why they wrote his story, very adventurous story of his own. But that is the fiction, not the real story. That is the thing I just want to point out. Okay, for the next week, I would point out other chapter of his bullshit writing. Yeah, for this week, I will stop here, and thank you very much for your listening and cooperation. And one more thing is, I just want to request, if I make any mistake of the usage or any poor pronunciation, please excuse me. Thank you very much for your listening. For today is this all.